Blog Talk Radio.
Contra Radio Network presents the Roundtable Report, a discussion of today's issues. So the kid gloves are off as we listen to real answers from real people. Come and join us on the Roundtable Report.
And good evening, John Jeffers here. Contra Radio Network, the Roundtable Report. Tonight we're going to talk about general items of interest. General items of interest. If you want to opine or join in the conversation, please do. Our number is 516-453-9389. 516-453-9389. They'll come right here to me in my little studio. Or if you want, you can go to the chat room. Guest 1239 is in the chat room. Welcome to the chat room. Glad you're here tonight. All right. So, before we get started again, just want to remind everybody, because it's summer and people want to do other things, I've cut the show back to about an hour. So instead of the usual 2 hours, we're going to cut back to an hour. Not only that, but people who listen to the show on the podcast are usually listening on the way to or from work, and this gives them a chance to listen to the whole show. What else do I talk? Oh, tonight we got severe threatening weather here in the northern part of the tyranny state of Illinois. The state which will go bankrupt in less than 24 hours. Yes. Such a lovely freaking place. But anyways, so I got the weather radio on. Already it's gone off twice. So if you hear the warning, you have to give me a minute to listen and see what's going on. We're supposed to be getting all kinds of nastiness coming down. So, in the meantime, that's what's happening there, so you know what's going on. And what else do we want to talk about? Okay, one of the things, what do I want to talk about first? How about this? Come here. Here we go. All right, let me move this down here so I can get to it. Yes. 5 things you need to survive a nuclear war. These are the 5 things you need to survive a nuclear war. Look, not everybody's going to be wiped out. It's just not going to happen. Not everybody. Maybe Porky will, because he can't escape from Northern Ireland, but the rest of us. This is from urbansurvivalsite.com. So, of all the disasters that might happen in the near future, a nuclear one is the one I fear the most. Not only are tensions high between the United States and Russia, they're higher than they've ever been in a long time. The increasing number of jihadists who are not deterred by the threat of mutually assured destruction means we are in more danger every single day. And then there's North Korea, a country determined to develop missiles that can reach the United States, and no one knows how to stop him without causing a nuclear incident. Unfortunately, nuclear weapons cannot be uninvented, so it's hard to see how their existence won't eventually result in a worldwide disaster. Every year, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists is a panel of experts who analyze how close the world is being plunged into nuclear war. Adjust a clock known as the Doomsday Clock. The closer the clock is to midnight, the closer we are to war. Now, in 2017, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists updated the clock to just 2.5 minutes to midnight. That's the closest it has been since the height of the Cold War in 1953. With the world in such an unstable place, it's more important than ever to prepare for a nuclear war. Of course, if you're in the direct vicinity of a nuclear explosion, like Charles in Nebraska, no amount of preparation in the world is going to save you. For those who aren't hit directly, though, survival is possible if you made the right preparations. So with that in mind, here are 5 things you need to survive a nuclear war. You're going to need a fallout shelter. Now today, nuclear warheads manufactured by advanced countries such as the United States are often much cleaner than they used to be in terms of the amount of radioactive fallout they produce. However, there is no guarantee that the nation or organization who is attacked you are hit by will be using bombs that are cleaner. And even if it is a relatively clean bomb, fallout can still be incredibly dangerous, especially if it is detonated on the ground rather than in the air. With this being the case, the most important thing you can have to survive a nuclear war is a fallout shelter designed to shield you from the radioactive material that a nuclear explosion blasts up into the atmosphere. Keep in mind, That fallout from a nuclear explosion can still be raining down days or even weeks after the explosion has taken place. So it's crucial to keep your fallout shelter well stocked so you can lay low until the threat from the fallout has passed. Number 2, you need a Geiger counter. By the way, personal note, first thing I bought, Geiger counter. That's it. I found it on eBay. Civil defense. Got it. Bright yellow. Good stuff. Even after all the radioactive material has been blown up into the atmosphere, has dissipated it, there will still be areas near the blast that will give off life-threatening levels of radiation. Now, while it's best to stay as far away from the blast site as possible, if you're going to be venturing very close to the area where the bomb detonated, why you want to do that, I don't know, you will want to use a Geiger counter to determine if it is safe. They're a bit pricey, but there's an expensive type that you can plug into your smartphone. I don't know if those are accurate or work. I don't know. A reading of 700 millisievert on your Geiger counter means that you are at risk of radiation sickness. 3,000 millisievert, and you're at risk of radiation poisoning. And if you are exposed to 4,000 millisieverts, you only have a 50% chance of survival, which is true. Either you live or you die. 50%. Of course, exposure radiation levels of just 12.5 millisievert are known to increase your cancer by a risk of 0.1%. So it's best to avoid prolonged exposure to radiation of any detectable level. Even if it doesn't poison you right away, the long-term effects could still prove fatal. Radiation suit. A Geiger counter will let you know the radiation level in your area you're entering, but it won't do anything to safeguard against it. For that, you'll want a radiation suit. Now, good radiation suits work in 2 ways. For one, they are lined with lead, carbon, activated boron, and other materials designed to stop radioactive particles from penetrating the suit and entering your body. This function of radiation suits is the one people are most familiar with. However, it is only one aspect of the protection that radiation suits offer. Now, in addition to blocking dangerous particles, radiation suits also keep you from getting radioactive material on your skin and clothing. To do this, radiation suits don't have to be with lead or carbon. They just have to completely cover your body. A large majority of the damage caused by entering radioactive area comes from the fact that you and your clothing become covered in radioactive dust and debris. And you take that radioactive material back with you. By wearing a radiation suit, though, and washing it carefully when you return, you can avoid this danger. You got to watch out for the gamma radiation particles. I don't know if it will stop that. Those are the bad ones. Number 4, potassium iodide. By far, the organ in our bodies most susceptible to damage from radiation exposure is the thyroid gland. When exposed to radiation, the thyroid absorbs large amounts of radiation in the form of radioactive iodine. The best way to shield yourself against radiation-caused thyroid damage is to take potassium iodide before and immediately after your exposure. When you take potassium iodide, your thyroid fills up with iodine and is unable to absorb any more, preventing it from absorbing iodine that is radioactive. You can get those relatively cheap online. They're there. Potassium iodide comes in both liquid and capsule forms, though you'll want to be careful about taking it unless you absolutely have to. Taking too much potassium iodide is known to cause some adverse effects. So in the event you have been exposed to dangerous levels of radiation, though, potassium iodide can be a lifesaver. And number 5, general survival supplies. Surviving a nearby nuclear explosion is difficult enough. Surviving a full-blown nuclear war will require an even greater deal of preparation. Now, nuclear war has the capacity to completely end society as we know it. MAD dictates that in the event of a nuclear attack between 2 countries, such as the United States or Russia or North Korea, no one, and I mean no one, is getting off easy. Well, they aren't, and that's just the way it is. And with the nuclear arsenals of the world's top nuclear superpowers numbering in the tens of thousands, not to mention the possibility of nuclear weapons leaking out of Russia and into the hands of terrorists, the potential to send the entire world back to the Stone Age is certainly there. And don't forget, we also have North Korea, who is working with Iran to develop said nuclear weapons. Granted, they wanted to test them first on Israel. Now, with this being the case, the best way to prepare for a nuclear war, aside from gathering the things you need to survive the radiation, is to stock up on supplies and equipment necessary to be completely self-sufficient. This includes an ample food supply, as well as the ability to grow your own food. The supplies needed to collect, purify, and store fresh drinking water, medical supplies, and anything else needed to hunker down for the long road to recover after a nuclear war has ended. Well, what do you think? Porky Wheels in the chat room. Welcome, friend. Glad he's here. Let's see. Nope. Okay, we're good there. Let us continue. All right. Jim is on the live video feed. Hello, Jim. Let me type out a message to him because I like to acknowledge my listeners. I say hello to Green Sail. Sorry I missed you in Mississippi, my friend. We'll have to try again sometime. Let me see here. And Rob, he's listening in from Panama City Beach. He has left Indiana for warmer climes, it would seem. So we say hello to Robert. Welcome, gentlemen, to the video feed here on Facebook. If you want to look at the video feed, you can join it there. You know, if you want to do the video feed thing, you got to go to the CRN like page, not the group page, the live page. And you're there. And you'll see there. Just join on in. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Next up, let us discuss. Here's something that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to, let me bring this down to the nearest screen here. You come down here. Perfect. Okay, good deal. No, this is something I thought was really interesting, and I got this from AmericanPreppersOnline.com. It's dealing with unreasonable people during and after shit hits the fan. All right, this is interesting, and I want all your prepper group leaders out there and your patriot leaders. You need to know this. This is good. I will be posting this on the CRN group and like page because this is dealing with people. Dealing with people is more of an art than a science. Hello, friend, and welcome back. I recently was forced to deal with a person who is completely unreasonable and simply refused to admit that he was wrong, even when confronted with the truth. Now, I know that we have all been forced to deal with people like this in the past, but what about during and after a Teowaki event? All the rules will change, and you had better be ready. This is the subject of today's post, so grab a cup of coffee, my friend, and have a seat while we visit. Who wrote this? This is by Sarge, just so you know. There is a very thin layer that holds our society together, and it keeps many people under control. It's the fear of incarceration by law enforcement that is the glue. But what happens when that deterrent is gone? The simple answer is that the crazies will start coming out of the woodwork. Yes, they will, because there won't be any more meds for them to take. They'll run out of that real fast. So without fear of reprisal, many sane people that you know will do things you never expected of them simply because they can. It's the same old story that has been repeated time and time again throughout history. The strong will prey on the weak, and the loners will fall victim to the gangs. Worse than that, many people will become unreasonable simply because they are afraid of being wrong about anything. If they admit that they are wrong about something, then they are forced to accept that they may be wrong about many other things, and that scares the hell right out of them. Now, this was the case with my encounter recently, and sadly I was forced to accept the fact that he would never truly admit he was wrong. By the way, I have a friend like this. And, yeah. So to be honest with you, if this same conversation would have happened after the shit hit the fan, I would have been tempted just to shoot the idiot and go on with my business. There is still the rule of law, and sadly, a civilized person must do what they can to try to at least resolve the issue without gunplay. This is what happens when you stop the rule of survival of the fittest. Idiots are allowed to run around, being stupid, and getting away with it. Now, ever notice that most of the time, veterans are really nice, intelligent people? That's because idiots don't usually last on the battlefield. They usually are among the killed in action or absent without leave. Trust me when I say you should never piss off 5 guys with a gun. It's bad juju. Statistics have shown that jerks on the battlefield don't usually last very long at all. Many oddly seem to stumble in front of someone else and become victims of friendly fire. So when you meet a veteran of a foreign war, you can pretty much bet they are a good person, and I don't recommend pissing them off. Unfortunately, the same is not true of many of our colleagues, or many of our colleges and universities today. If it were, the number of graduates each year would most likely drop to a couple of dozen. I can just see the letter to the parents now. Dear parents of John Doe, I regret to inform you that your son was shot and killed this week for being a butthole. We have spoken to the person responsible and asked him to please refrain from this type of behavior in the future. Thank you. No, there is no way to win an argument with these people. The best you can do is to try to confront them with the facts and ensure that, offer them a way out that still allows them to save face. I try to do this. If I'm in a good mood, that is. If not, then I try to let them rant until they get out of their system. In my case recently, many people wanted to take it to the next level because the guy is constantly causing grief. I think when he was faced with several unhappy people, he realized he was in an argument he couldn't win. So when we offered a different solution, he took it. With these types of situations happen after the shit hits a fan, rather than having a boot hill, people will have jerk hills. Or maybe they'll call it something else. The truth is that the only way to win an argument with a person like this is to never get into an argument with them at all, by avoiding them at all, if at all possible. So when the shit hits the fan, you need to be sure that you don't become one of these types of people, because you might wind up on someone's crazy hill. So until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and stay prepared. God bless America. Sarge. You know, we've all run across people like this. And they're out there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just the way they are. What are you going to do, right? I mean, yeah. There's always somebody. You know, in Texas, they call it, well, he needed killing. Gus1381 is in the chat room. Welcome to the show. I appreciate it. What else do we have here? Okay, very good. We will continue on then. For our next subject, how about this? All right. How about, this is from askaprepper.com. I think you guys might like this one because it's, kind of interesting. The best way to prepare your home for a nuclear attack. This is by Fergus Mason on June 13th of 2017. Now, anyone who likes post-apocalypse movies know what a house that's been exposed to a nuclear blast looks like. Shattered walls blown down to a few feet high, charred timbers, and a fire-gutted interior. The skeletons of its occupants might even be draped artistically over a pile of rubble. The pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki after they were bombed show exactly this kind of total destruction. So it's natural that a lot of people, to be pretty resigned about nuclear war. So if they can cause that sort of devastation, surely there's no chance of survival anyway. Isn't it better just to get it over with quickly? In a word, no. The blast from a nuclear weapon is incredibly powerful, but it still obeys the laws of physics. The intensity of the destruction drops off rapidly as you move away from the exact center of the explosion, which is ground zero. It doesn't drop in a straight line either, but roughly follows the inverse square law. That basically means the effects of the weapon fall by the square of the distance from ground zero. So, if you're twice as far away from the effects, it will be about a quarter as destructive. If you're 3 times as far away, they'll be 1/9 as destructive. Now, these figures aren't rock solid, and they can vary depending on the height the weapon explodes at, the shape of the ground, but they're a pretty good rule of thumb. So even with a large weapon, you don't have to be that far away from it for the level of destruction to fall from total to survivable. And even in a full-scale attack, huge parts of the country would escape the immediate effects completely. So if the risk of a nuclear attack increases, unless you live in a major city or right beside a strategic target, right, Charles, in Nebraska? No, he lives right he lives right south off at Air Force Base. It's definitely worth preparing your home to give it and you the best chance of survival, all right? So if you're going to prepare for nuclear attack, first thing you know what the dangers are. When the warhead detonates, there are basically 5 ways it can kill you. Thermal pulse. It's a very intense flash of heat and light. 2 is blast, overpressure and high winds. 3, prompt radiation. a pulse of X-ray and gamma radiation. Number 4, residual radiation, alpha and beta radiation released by the ground around ground zero. And number 5 is fallout. What is that? Well, it looks like we're getting that nasty storm they said we'd be getting. So, if by chance we go off, we lose power or whatnot, you'll know what happened. Let's get back to it so we can't get this in here. First, forget about the prompt radiation. This is a single brief pulse lasting a few seconds, and its intensity falls off by the inverse square law. If you're more than 3,000 feet from the explosion, you won't pick up a dangerous exposure. In other words, unless it's a very small weapon, if you're close enough to have to worry about prompt radiation, the thermal pulse or blast will already have killed you anyway. So, residual radiation is more of a problem, but it's an easily avoided one. Now, when a nuke goes off on the surface or in the air, but low enough for a significant gamma pulse to hit the surface, the ground itself will become radioactive. It emits alpha particles, which can be stopped by a gas mask and heavy clothing, and more dangerous beta particles, which will penetrate the body of a vehicle. Now, residual radiation can be dangerous weeks after the blast. Luckily, if you don't need to expose yourself to it, simply don't go near craters or areas of complete destruction. So we're left with 3 things you need to protect against: thermal pulse, blast, and fallout. With the right preparation, you can make your home much more resistant to all of these, and here's how to do it, all right? A nuclear weapon releases a huge amount of energy, and about a third of it comes out as electromagnetic radiation. Hold on a moment. All right. And I do that so I don't cough into there, and you guys don't have to hear it. Now, so the radiation covers a wide spectrum, from gamma and X-ray through ultraviolet, radio frequency, visible light, and infrared. And it's extremely intense. All this energy delivers a lot of heat. Anything close to the explosion will be heated enough to turn into plasma. You, for example. And even 8 miles from a 1 megaton airburst, the energy intensity is high enough to cause third-degree burns. Okay, second-degree burns are extremely painful. Third degree is not painful because all your nerve endings have been burned, and therefore you can't feel anything. So obviously that's enough heat to start fires. As you get closer to the explosion, the risk will go up geometrically. The good news is, if you take the right precautions, you're going to be safe from distance when an unprepared one would burn. First, clear away anything flammable from around your home. Dead vegetation will flare up easily and scatter sparks. Even if the flash from the weapon doesn't burn your house down, burning leaves can do it. Inside, remove anything flammable from window sills and check your curtains. Light or net curtains need to be taken down. But if you have heavy lined ones, leave them up and closed. They'll help protect against flying glass if the window breaks. Next, get some white emulsion paint and give the exterior of all your windows a coat. People laugh at this advice, but it can make a huge difference. You see, white paint will reflect most of the pulse's energy and keep it out of your home. Without it, there's a very high risk of fire starting inside. Some people argue that the blast will break your windows anyways, but they're wrong. First, in the right conditions, the thermal pulse can start fires a lot further away than the blast can break windows. Secondly, the blast wave is very fast. The shock front can propagate outwards at over 3 miles per second. But the thermal pulse is traveling at the speed of light, which is 286,000 miles per second, in case you're wondering. Even if the blast arrives before the flash has faded, you'll still keep a lot of the thermal energy outside. If you have a bit more time, paint as much of your house white as you can. Start on walls that face towards likely nuclear targets. For example, if there's an air base 5 miles away, do that side first. Your aim here is exactly the same, to reflect as much thermal radiation as possible. Every bit of energy you can reflect back off your walls reduces the risk of fire. Sort out as many fire extinguishers and buckets of water or sand as you can. Keep in your fallout room. We're going to discuss that. Cover water buckets. That way you can use them for drinking too. Finally, if you hear an attack warning or you have to leave home for a while, turn off the gas and electricity at the mains. That will cut the risk of damage causing a fire. Blast. Now, blast is the hardest to defend against. The explosion shock wave will push a fast-moving wave of highly compressed air along with it. Close to the explosion, this moves at 3 to 4 times the speed of sound, and it's very destructive. The good news is human bodies can survive overpressure by up to 30 psi, and anything close enough to face that amount of pressure will most certainly be vaporized by the thermal pulse. The bad news is that even heavily concrete buildings won't survive much above 20 psi, and 5 psi is enough to collapse the average home. You are much more blast resistant than your house, but that won't help if it collapses upon you. So most fatalities from blast will be indirect and caused by collapsing buildings. There are a few things you can do. Heavy curtains will slow or stop flying glass, which can save you from injuries if a weapon explodes before you have a chance to get to your fallout room. If you can, cut down any trees that could fall on your home, because if they can fall on it, a nuclear blast pretty much guarantees that they will. Clear away loose items from the outside. Trash cans, bikes picked up by the blast and slammed on the front wall of your house can make the difference between making it through the explosion or collapsing on top of you. Now, lightweight wooden sheds or barns will go down at a much lower overpressure than your house, so move anything vital out of them. If they're really flimsy, just knock them down yourself. That's better than having them turn into flying missiles. Once the overpressure of the blast waves moves on, it's followed by a sudden drop in pressure. Then another reflected blast wave as air rushes back into the low pressure area behind the shock front. Remember the old videos? We see all the trees going this way, then all of a sudden they stop and go back that way. Nature abhors a vacuum, and basically that's what's been created. All the air has been pushed out of that area. Hold on a minute. Let's see what happened. I'll share it with you.
The National Weather Service in Milwaukee Sullivan has issued a severe thunderstorm warning.
Well, I'm not in Milwaukee or Sullivan County, so that's all right. Let's get back to it. Where were we? Okay, yeah. So what you see is that wind rushing back in to fill up that vacuum again. So as air rushes back into the low pressure area behind the shock front, this means that stuff can be picked up and thrown at your home from all directions. The sudden pressure changes can be enough to make some buildings literally explode. Don't leave doors or windows open to try and prevent this, though. If the blast wave is powerful enough to explode your house, it will break the windows anyway. Now we have fallout. Now, when a nuclear weapon explodes, only a small amount of its mass, a few pounds, is converted into energy. The rest, which can be anywhere up to a ton, is superheated by the reaction and turned to incredibly hot, highly radioactive plasma. Tons of dust and debris. If the fireball created by the explosion touches the ground, thousands of tons will be sucked up through the fireball and mixed with the plasma, which will cool and condense as the fireball dissipates. Now, all this dust, blasted by radiation, fused together with bomb material, and reduced to the consistency of fine sand, is pumped up into the mushroom cloud and dispersed to become fallout. The heavier particles will start falling down a wind of ground zero within minutes of the blast. The lighter ones, depending on how high they go, can be carried into the stratosphere's high-altitude winds and come down almost anywhere in the world. In the 2 weeks following a nuclear attack, the whole planet will get a very light dusting of fallout. Now, don't give up hope just yet, though. Fallout doesn't stay dangerous forever. Its radioactivity falls according to the 7-10 rule. For every 7-fold increase in time since the blast, radiation levels drop to 1/10 of what they were. So an hour after the explosion, the fallout might be creating a radiation level of 1,000 roentgens per hour. 5 minutes exposure to this is often enough to cause radiation sickness. A half an hour will kill about half the people who are exposed, and everyone who's exposed to it for an hour will be dead inside a few days. After another 7 hours, the radiation level will have fallen to 100 roentgens per hour. 49 hours later, it's down to 10. 2 weeks after the attack, it'll be 1 roentgen per hour, and at that point, you can be exposed to it for several hours a day without serious risk of radiation sickness. A year after the attack, radiation levels will be close to normal background levels. So let's talk about the fallout room. Before I do that, what do I wish to do? Oh, yeah. Let me see. No, guest 1381 is still here. Very good. Make sure I didn't blow anybody off. All right. See what we got there. All right. Let's get back to it. All right, the fallout room. Obviously, the key to survival is to avoid the fallout until its initial extreme radioactivity has decayed to a less dangerous level. Now, to do this, you need to prepare a fallout room in your home. Ideally, there should be an inside room with no external walls. Firstly, it's easier to keep fallout from getting into it. Secondly, any radiation from fallout outside that penetrates the walls will lose intensity with distance. Remember that inverse square law will also be partly absorbed by walls and furniture. So choose a room as far from the roof as possible because fallout was going to collect there. And if it's damaged, the lethal dust will get through. If you have a basement, use that. It will be almost completely protected against radiation from the outside. Now, many homes don't have a room with external walls, so you'll have to improvise. Pick a room at the downwind side of it if you can, because less fallout will be blown up against the walls. Now, seal the room as best you can. Block up any windows, air vents, or other openings as tightly as you can. Try not to just seal them with plastic sheet on the inside, because if any fallout gets through, it's going to get trapped between the plastic and the wall. This means any radiation from it will be in the room with you, and you really need to keep it outside. Once the room is sealed, you have to thicken the walls. The main hazard is going to be beta radiation and gamma. And that can make it through a few inches of wood or nearly an inch of aluminum. The more mass you can put between yourself and the fallout, the better. If you have the time and materials, reinforce the outside of the external walls to a height of 6 feet above the floor. A layer of brick or cinder block is good. If you can't do that, sandbags are good. Use stakes and wire to hold them in place so they can resist blast, or stack them on the inside. Stacks of books will also absorb beta particles. And you can use heavy furniture too. Basically, any dense, heavy material will absorb the radiation before it can reach into your fallout room. Now, there's some stuff you should store in the fallout room because you're going to be staying there for at least 2 weeks after the attack. First thing is food. I would say first thing is water, then food. Ideally, stuff that you can eat cold, all right? Then stock as much water as possible in a sealed or at least covered containers. Water in an uncovered bucket can collect any fallout that does get in. Firefighting equipment and camping gear should be in your fallout room and any comforts you have space for. You'll also need either a chemical toilet or a bucket and a supply of strong garbage bags to line it. I would suggest the contractor garbage bags. Put 2 garbage cans with lids right outside the door of the fallout room. Use one of the bags for the toilet bucket and the other for the rest of your garbage. There's one more thing to do. Inside the fallout room, as far away from the outside wall as possible, you need to build your inner refuge. This is a small, heavily shielded shelter for maximum protection from radiation. If you have a big, heavy table, you can use that as a base. Pile up heavy furniture, sandbags, books, or anything else dense around it. Cover it so that it's as close as possible and have some boxes full of books or dirt that can be pulled in front of the entrance. If you don't have a table, dismount 1 or 2 doors. Take them from upstairs if you can and prop them at 45 degrees against the wall. Secure them with nailing a strip of wood to the floor so they can't slide and cover them with books or sandbags. Again, have something to block the entrance. After an attack, get into your fallout room as soon as possible and into the inner refuge. For at least 48 hours, only leave the inner refuge when it's absolutely necessary. Radiation is at its highest during this time and most likely will be raised level inside the fallout room, so stay as protected as you can. After 2 days, you can spend more time outside the refuge, but don't leave the fallout room. When you need to get rid of toilet waste or garbage, just open the door as far as necessary, drop the bag right in the right trash can, and shut the door right away. Close it smoothly, though. Don't slam it. The last thing you want to do is stir up any dust, because some of it will be fallout. So stay in the fallout room for at least 2 weeks, and longer if you can. Sleep in the inner refuge. If you're not doing anything, go in there as well. The more protected you are, the better. Now, look, preparing your house seems like a lot of work, but you can do a pretty good job of it in 2 or 3 days. It's worth the effort. If that 2 or 3 days makes a difference between your house catching fire or not, you'll have a safe place to shelter from the fallout. Don't prepare your home and there's a good chance you'll be out there, desperately looking for shelter as the radioactive dust starts to fall. If that happens, your chances of survival aren't high. And when that's your alternative, preparing your home to resist the attack doesn't seem like that big of a job. What do you think? Yes? Correct? No? I thought it was good. Very informative. Oh, what do we got here? What is going on? All right. Let me check here what's going on with that. All right. Yeah, I can just see it now. There you go. What I tell you, huh? Let's hear what they have to say this time. I'll let you hear it.
The National Weather Service in Chicago has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Lake County in northeastern Illinois.
That's us.
Until 9:45 p.m. At 8:35 p.m., severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from near Channel Lake to Ringwood to Woodstock, moving east at 55 miles per
I'm right in the middle.
hazard, 60 miles per hour wind gusts. Source, radar indicated. Impact, expect damage to roofs, siding, and trees.
Great.
Locations impacted include Waukegan, Arlington, Palatine, Buffalo Grove, Wheeling, Northbrook, North Chicago, Gurnee, Mundelein, Highland Park, Vernon Hills, Zion, Grays Lake, Smithville.
I'm not going to bother with it. I'm right in the middle of that band. NEM. In the meantime, it just keeps on going. Doesn't it? All right. Anything else we want to talk about tonight? Let me see. Did I get to everything I want to talk about tonight? Because I know a lot of you don't, There seems to be... No, I don't want to do that. Okay. Anything else? What's in the chat room? Guest 1500 is here. Welcome. They're in the chat room, along with Guest 1381 and Porky Wheel. Don't want anybody to be lonely out there. We don't want Porky Wheel to get lonely. On the other hand, it is like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning where he is, so he very well could fall asleep. He's done it before, but that's okay. More often than not, he's right in there. So that way. I see Brian, 981, 1985 in the chat room. Welcome, buddy. I'm glad you're here. All right. What else do you want to talk about? Because I've only got, let me see, because I changed, I only got like 20 minutes left, or I could call it for the night. Whatever you guys want to do. You tell me. Green Sail just shared the video tonight. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate when you share it. I'm trying to think. Did I catch everything that I wanted to tonight? I think so. Oh, very good. Thank you, Brian. Brian hasn't been in for a while, but he says he hasn't missed an episode. He gets a gold star tonight. There you go. And he is the warlord of Rhode Island. Oh, here we go again. It never ends here. The fun just keeps coming on. Can you throw some more crap on my plate? Because I just don't have enough.
The National Weather Service in Chicago has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for northern DeKalb County in north-central Illinois, northern King County in northeastern Illinois, southeastern McKinney.
Really? I didn't know that. In the meantime, as it all just keeps crapping up Actually, I forgot to say something. I wanted to welcome the NSA to our broadcast. Now, hey, guys, call in, would you? We've got lots of questions for you, if you can. If you can. John Theo just joined us in the video feed here. I want to say hi to John Theo. He's a good guy. All right. John, you missed it. We were talking about how to nuclear war-proof your house. That was good information. I thought it was good information. Did you guys like it? I did. All right. Let me see. What else? Okay. Well, let me think here. I'm trying to think. No, I think we pretty much got it. I know. I said I wanted to knock it. See, we know about the hour. I told you about that. Hey! claps, applause, props. We gained over 1,000 listeners in about 2 weeks. So we're back above the 4,000 level. We're above the 5,000 level. So, hey, Austin's in the video feed. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. So, in the meantime, let me get that out to him. Justin. I did get your books, buddy. I haven't decided what I want to do with them just yet. I'm planning something with it. I'm still working on the CEOI. Every time I get ready to work on it, something else craps up, and it takes priority, and I got to take care of that. I haven't forgotten about it. I'm still working on it, all right? So just hang in there. When you guys get done with it, I tell you, you guys are going to love it. You guys are going to like it. A few prepper groups out there, you guys are going to like it because it's a status board. That's right, a status board. You can have it printed out at your favorite printer, big one. So it's like that. However big you want it. What it does, I put it on the Excel spreadsheet. I put it as big as Excel would make it. So when you get it printed out, you can go there and have it printed out, made for you. I suggest you get some grease pencils and have the thing laminated when you're done. And that way you can write your information in. When you see it, you'll like it. I guarantee it. Good stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Nope. I'm surprised Chuck hasn't called in. Chuck, yeah, I'll let Chuck speak for himself. I'm not going to do it for him. I'm not going to let him off the hook that easily. I'll get him in. He's a good guy, though. Sometimes he doesn't always express himself clearly. And when we were discussing the shooter of the Republican congressman and staffers, that was one of those times. So, yeah. But no, I'm not letting him off the hook that easily. No. Not going to do it. It wouldn't be prudent. All right. In the meantime, alkaline water, 8.8 pH. There we go. Now, Rob says, there seems to be a fair amount of interest in cryptocurrency among the prepper and patriot crowd. He says, I don't know why. It seems very fragile to me. So when I get back to normal life, I'd like to discuss this. All right, sir. I put some stuff there. Justin says, people like the hidden capacity with cryptocurrency. He says, I don't use them, but if you need to cross a border with a lot of money, they're useful. That's true, sir. That is true. Trying to think of anything else. Let me think. We talked about Antifa. Patriots. Patriots, alert Patriots. That reminds me, those Antifa, those ass clowns, are going to be at Gettysburg next week. I believe it's July 2nd. My guess is they'll be there before then and maybe after then. They're going out there to destroy the graves of the Confederate soldiers. I find their behavior to be reprehensible and typical of a class of citizens who have been spoiled and feel entitled. I would hope that the reenactors out there, that go out there every year for the reenactment at the Battle of Gettysburg, will resist them and not allow that to happen. Well, let's put it this way. Gettysburg, I believe, is a national park. Therefore, it falls under the Department of the Interior, which makes it a federal park. And my guess is if these little ass clowns go destroying things in the park, they could be subject to federal prosecution. Now, granted, they may not get prison time, but you can kiss your student loans bye-bye, because you're not getting a damn penny out after that. Anyways, I just thought I'd put that out there. Jason had over in, I believe, Washington, had a concern about that. We were discussing it earlier today. But I just wanted to put it out there. Well, I did, So, hey, it's Joe. And I believe this is Joe from Auburn. Joe, How are you, my friend? I'm glad you're here. Glad you made it in tonight. I met Joe on the train down to Jackson, Mississippi, on the Amtrak train. Real nice guy. A patriot. A patriot, I tell you. His wife is just as patriotic, if not more so, than he. And my guess is their children are also patriots. And Joe lives in Auburn, from the great state of Alabama. In the meantime, let me think. Well, who else do we have there? Justin says, cannon versus bike locks. Yes. A Parrott rifle would be nice. However, we just wanted to put it out there. And I think we talked about the nuclear weapons and how to make your house somewhat survivable. What is this? Shall we talk about this? Yes, we will. Let us talk. Let me grab this down from the other screen. Yes, we will talk about this. It says FEMA is preparing for a solar storm that would take out the grid. Really? Boy, the rain's coming down, knocking on everything. I'm really surprised if the tornado warning goes off. That would really suck. I mean, you know. And just in case it does happen, I'm going to leave the camera going. Leave the video feed going so that way you could all see it happen in real time. You know, of course FEMA's been preparing for a solar storm. That's just what they do, but let me think here real quick. Okay, you know what? I guess. It says FEMA's planning for a massive solar storm that would be so strong it would take down the power grid, noting that the rare yet high consequence scenario has the potential for catastrophic impact on our nation and FEMA's ability to respond. So according to unpublished FEMA documents obtained by Government Attic, a Freedom of Information Act database and nonprofit organization, the Department of Homeland Security Agency once mapped out a disaster plan for the occurrence of another geomagnetic superstorm like the one that occurred in 1859, also referred to as the Carrington event. For those of you that knew that, give yourself a gold star tonight. Back then, the sun flung a huge, giant plume of magnetized plasma out into space. The coronal mass ejection, the sibling of a massive solar flare, traveled the 93 million miles between the sun and the Earth in only 17.6 hours. And this is the largest geomagnetic storm in the history of recorded space weather. No other storm has matched it in speed or magnitude. When the shock wave of the accelerated particles arrived on September 1, 1859, the disturbances to Earth's magnetosphere were so great that telegraph communications across Europe and North America went on the fritz. Sparks leaped from the telegraph infrastructure, and machinery was so inundated with electrical currents that operators were able to transmit messages while disconnected from battery power. Compasses even wiggled. And brilliant auroras were reportedly seen as far south as the Caribbean. Now look, that doesn't mean the ill-equipped government isn't prepared for the inevitability. In fact, they are. Despite our superior ability to predict these events, the stakes are exponentially higher in a modern, hyper-connected world. Now, FEMA predicts that a geomagnetic storm of this intensity would be a catastrophe in slow motion. You know what? Only a government agency could figure that one out, come up with that. A catastrophe in slow motion. Space weather events happen all the time, and many are harmless. For example, an event causing radio blackouts, solar radiation storms, geomagnetic storms would be abnormal. Yet the ripple effects on the power grid and communications would severely limit FEMA's ability to respond to a nationwide crisis. So, within 20 minutes of a coronal mass ejection occurrence, FEMA estimates that 15% of the satellite fleet would be lost due to solar panel damage. Solar radiation from the incoming storm would add 3 to 5 years' worth of exposure to the panels, degrading older satellites to the point of inoperability. Low-orbiting satellites, such as Iridium and Globalstar, may be less affected. Cellular service would be disrupted, and the loss of GPS capabilities could complicate FEMA operations. That's from Motherboard. Now, should a storm of this magnitude hit, there wouldn't be much the government can do. And, of course, this would be the perfect opportunity to round up the masses for a trip to Camp FEMA. Yes. Individuals would need to band together to help get things back online, but it would take a lot of time. It takes time. Those in heavily populated regions would be hit the hardest, and evacuation over 100 million people would be impossible. Even if it was, there would be no unaffected region to send the evacuees other than to Camp FEMA. Prepare yourself, because the mere fact that this government document exists could mean there might be something we don't know. I said could, doesn't mean is. Two different things. What do you think? Yes? No? I don't know. Okay. You, sir, Justin says he's just curious about why the time amount changed. Time commission. No. I explained it for the last 2 episodes. I'll do it again just for you. You know why? Because I like you. Only an hour because, first, it's the summer. Most people don't want to spend 2 hours here. They got things they want to do outside, in the evening even. Second of all, and most importantly, most people listen to this as a podcast. We do have some that listen to it live, but the majority is a podcast. And they usually listen on their way to or from work. It takes about an hour average. This gives them a chance to listen to the whole show. Does it make sense? Yes? Okay. That's 3 times now. That's okay. You can ask all you want, young man. I'll be more than happy. What do we got here? Nope, we're all good there. All right. Let's get that. All right. I don't know. I think we're pretty much done for the evening, I believe, guys. Yep. I said it's just for an hour. And, when the fall returns, we return to fall or maybe winter. Let me see how the 1 hour show goes. If it goes over, it seems like it is, we'll find out more. Kenny in McHenry County. Kenny in McHenry County. When have you scheduled the march on Richmond? Let me know. I'll get the word out there. Let's do the march on Richmond. I will be there. Justin wants to know, we've known about the threat of solar storms since the 1850s. You have done nothing to harden our grid. Is that ignorance or deliberate? It's not ignorance. It's not deliberate. What it is, it's a willful, it's a failure to truly take it seriously, and money. And he says our grid is 4 generations old. We need to upgrade. We do. Now, in the 1980s, the Reagan administration recognized the effects of EMP and all that, and they've hardened the military bases and everything else. It's the power grid itself that's falling apart. Could be funds. Let's see. Could be funds that are used for other projects. Yes, absolutely. Austin Hebert's in the video feed. Hey, Austin, glad you're here, pal. What we're telling you is that, look, it's about money. When it comes to government spending, it's all about that. Brian says he listens at work. Life of a city bus driver. See, there you go. I say, thanks, B, for helping me out there. That's good. All right. Anything else we need to talk about? Okay, let me start. I only got a few minutes left anyways. So we did good. We got the great information out there. Listen to the beginning of the show. I think you'll like it. What we're also going to do is, I think, Friday night, Contra Dawn's show starts at 9 p.m., not 8, 9 p.m. And then Julie should be live again Saturday. I believe she's making the cross-country trip right now. So I think she's done, she's taking notes and all that stuff. So her show should be interesting on Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central, all-time Central. So Dawn, 9 p.m. Central on Friday. Saturday is Julie's show, 8 p.m. on Saturday, and I'll be back on Sunday. I think I might have figured out a different show title for Sunday night. Normally I just call it, CRN, Contra Radio Network. But you know what? I think it's tonight is the Roundtable Report. I reported. And so I'm thinking of I think I got a name I want to try out. Well, let me think about it some more before I actually do it. So with that said, okay. Anything else? Yes, the infrastructure is falling apart. Dr. Peter Pry has given numerous testimonies in front of Congress about the threat. Yes, he has. And as usual, guess what? You're dealing with a bunch, well, of con men. If it doesn't affect how much money they can keep or get reelected again, they really don't give a flying you-know-what. They just don't care. And once you understand that, then everything makes sense. And that's why as preppers, we say, you know what? Right there. We'll do it ourselves. We're Americans. We can do this stuff. We have access to things. We can prep ourselves, thank you. Just can't deal with these people half the time. But anyways, all right. I want to thank you for those of you that joined me tonight here on the Roundtable Report for the 28th of June. Our country's independence celebration is coming up. So, with that said, yes, it is. You're absolutely right, Justin. And because if they were to do it, that'd be a ton of jobs for people. Never know. Perhaps President Trump has already seen to this. He's talked about it many times. So we'll see if he can get the purse strings loosened up to get it taken care of. So that's a whole other issue. Okay. With that said, I want to thank you again for joining me here on the Roundtable Report. For my prepper and patriot friends out there, I say to you this, and these words are true. Be safe, be alert, and be vigilant. I'm John Jeffers here at the Contra Radio Network saying thank you for joining me tonight, sharing a small bit of your evening with me. I appreciate it. I'm humbled by your support. And we'll talk about that again on Sunday night. Until then, keep prepping. Be safe, be alert, be vigilant. 3 watchwords you need to do. Never stop prepping. With that, I say good night, my friends. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.